Hello and welcome to a new episode of Morgana Radio, where I, your host, Morgana Ray, interview the world's most fascinating thought leaders on money, love, and magic. And today we have money wizard David Shriner-Cahn, and he is going to teach us how to turn your super skill into recurring revenue. And I love that topic because we have so many skills out there, and when you're pouring it in to like a one shot and then you have to reinvent the wheel over and over again, it's unsustainable, it's exhausting. And David is an expert, particularly for the solopreneur, which is a business model that I love. It's lean, it's mean, it's easy to pivot and respond to your market. And David, let me tell you a little bit about, I'm going to go into David's background first. David Shriner-Cahn is a recognized authority on entrepreneurship, leadership development, and he is the host of the wildly popular podcast, Smashing the Plateau. David is also part of the best network providing expert individual and team relationship, mentorship, peer support, and curated educational content to help solopreneur experts get the recurring revenue they deserve. That is the best I can do without my glasses, which I just remembered are on my head and help me read things. Mm-hmm. So thank you so much for being here, David. And can you please, just to start with what is the big problem that you see entrepreneurs struggling with today?
Well, for solopreneurs in particular, and solopreneurs are also entrepreneurs, one of the biggest challenges I see is that they don't say no frequently enough. They say yes way too often.
Now, to somebody starting out, that may sound counterintuitive. And honestly, I remember my father would get really freaked out when he would see me say no to clients. So why is saying no so important?
Because you are going to have way more opportunities to use your skills, share your skills to help solve other people's problems than you can possibly deliver. And not every skill that you have is going to help you achieve your personal, professional, and business goals the same way. So, so as an example, if you decide that you want to, and let's get right to the money. If you decide you want to make $10,000 a month, then saying yes to someone who can only afford to pay you $100 a month is probably not going to help you. So it's okay to say no to those people.
And saying no, I find, makes you really attractive, because when you say yes to everything, you're coming from a place of fear and scarcity. Like that $10,000 client isn't out there, or the client that your ideal client isn't out there, and you can just lower your self-esteem and use up your energy when you take that client who's inappropriate. So how does that translate to recurring revenue for the solopreneur?
Well, first of all, you really need to understand yourself first. You've got to do some deep self-reflection, understand what your super skills are. What are your best strengths? What is it that people come to you and ask you for help to solve a particular problem for them over and over again, particularly when it's really easy for you? And the counterintuitive part about our super skills is often hard for us to recognize them because they come so naturally to us. Like, as an example, I'm really good with directions. If I go someplace once, chances are I'm probably going to remember how to get there, even if it's complicated, a second time, even if it's 2 years later. For some reason, that seems to work for me. Now, if you take me to the movies, I can see a movie today, and next week I will have forgotten what I've seen.
But you'll be the guy who can help me find my car in the parking lot. Yeah.
Exactly. Like when I was a kid, this is back in the days when little kids were often left alone, I could figure out where the car was.
So this is actually a really, really good topic, the super skills, because people who are new in business, or they've been in business too long, not making enough money, this question of niche or focus is really painful, because you may be good at lots of things. How do you hone in on what is the super skill to monetize?
Well, it's a process. It's not so simple to figure out. I know talking about it makes it sound like, oh yeah, you should do that, but it's not so simple. We actually have a process that we use in Best Network that takes a really deep dive, looking at an entire history of a person's life to try to extract what those super skills are. And there's a way to do it, looking at the history of your experiences. And it's part self-reflective, and it really helps to have other people look at your experiences and see what you've done really well over and over again, particularly as it may stand out and differentiate you from other people. So experiences that you've had, if you can look at what they are, perhaps even write a story about them, reflect on what you've written, look at what you did, how you did it, how well you did it, and how you felt about it. Those experiences that were easy for you to do, that accomplished something, that had some kind of result that you felt good about, those are going to give you some clues as to your super skills.
You just said the magic word, which was felt. I believe any successful, sustainable business venture needs to meet three criteria. You have to be good at it. But you also have to have some enjoyment. If it's not fun, it's like torture. And then it also has to be lucrative. It has to be something that somebody else wants to pay for. So how do you find that intersection?
You need to do market research. And if you look at anybody who is successful in business, they all do market research. They all spend time engaging with their ideal customer, learning what their ideal customer struggles with, understanding how their ideal customer feels when a problem isn't solved. And one of the questions I ask prospects is, what's the worst? What's bothering you right now? Why is that a problem? What would it look like if that problem got fixed? How badly do you need to get it fixed? And how will you feel if it's solved? And those give me some clues as to what somebody's pain points are. And if I don't get the sense that there's a real deep pain point and that they would find real value in getting it solved, that person probably is not going to be a good customer of mine.
Yeah. I find that my people tend to use the same language. There are certain words, like my favorite is, I get people applying to work with me who use words like my soul. Like my soul is screaming, I need to do this, my soul. Like that's very specific to my people. So I'm wondering, what is the language and what is the pain that shows up in your ideal people, the ones you get the best results for? What is their language and pain?
I don't know that it's any. I don't know that I've paid attention that it's something specific to the people that tend to want to work with me the most. But I would say that I feel that there's a sense of real urgency that they want to solve this, and it is the kind of thing that is causing stress, anxiety, fear, frustration, and we know that emotions are what drives sales. Emotions are what cause people to buy. So I tend to look at what are the emotions behind the problem, and are the emotions deep enough and strong enough that this person is going to really want a solution and going to value the solution. And in reality, particularly in a service business like ours, there is work that our clients need to do besides whatever we're doing with them or for them. There's work they need to do to help get this problem solved. So in essence, our relationship with our clients is a partnership relationship, and unless they feel the sense of urgency, they are not going to do the work. So I've had clients who say they want to do something, they really do want to do it, they're paying us to get the problem solved, and yet I'm still nudging them constantly for them to do their piece. It's like there's only so much I can do.
Why do you think that is? Why do people do that?
Well, I know when I have a problem, it may, especially something that's difficult for me to do where I need help, it may not be the first thing I want to work on every single day. I am much more likely to do things that are easy for me and that where I don't feel any sense of resistance, any personal sense of resistance. So as an example, if I know that I'm not really great at writing copy, yet I know for my business I need to have copy written, and it would sound better if it's coming in my voice and if I actually write it. So I could hire somebody to be a writing coach, and they're going to teach me some techniques, but in the end, maybe I'd rather just have somebody else write it for me. So I might be resistant as I'm learning how to be a better writer.
Sure. And for that, what I'm also hearing is the way forward is to chunk it down and take smaller steps. Like if you're resistant, hire somebody, learn something, maybe do it in smaller pieces. But I know that, and I love that you're using a lot of feeling language. By the way, that's so important. In my experience, so many people are teaching the same strategies. They're out there, you can find them on the web, but somebody who can address the inner roadblocks that afflict successful people and people who are just so close to success. When you have the skills to address that invisible stuff, that's what's really valuable. So what are some of the big roadblocks that entrepreneurs face in the success that they want to live?
Well, one big one, they don't get help soon enough. They aren't honest with themselves about the fact that they are stuck, right? So if, again, going back to money, if what you want is more money, be really clear to yourself, how much money do you actually need and why? And what's it for? We've all seen examples of people that are living a fairly expensive lifestyle, and they think that they need more income to be able to support an increasingly expensive lifestyle. And in reality, if you break it down, spending money on what they're spending money on may not be filling the need that they have, and it may not be making them happier or whatever they're trying to achieve, whatever their goals are. Spending more money may not be doing it. So you really need to look at what are your specific objectives with regard to money and why. And then when you're really clear on that, okay, so if my number, let's go back to the $10,000 a month. If my number is I need to make $10,000 more per month, how am I going to do that? And be really clear. And then, okay, I can't make $10,000 all at once the first month, but can I make $500 more next month or $1,000 more next month? What am I best at delivering? Who's my target market? How do I do a better job of pricing, selling, and delivering so that I can increase my earnings? And yes, it may be in small steps.
So you were talking about emotion earlier. What are the emotions that get in the way of achieving these goals?
Fear is one of the big ones. Starting anything new, there's a lot of fear. It's not going to be good enough. Particularly those of us that are entrepreneurs, we like things to come out of the gate doing really well. In reality, for something to be successful in business, if you wait until it's 100%, you're never going to start. and it's never going to be 100%. If you can get 80%, you're doing really well. If you're creating a show like you and I have, your first episode is probably not going to be that great, but you got to do it, because unless you actually start, you're not going to be able to get better at it. So at some point, you got to take the first step, and that fear of the first step is huge.
I loved your show, by the way. Like, that was one of the reasons that I wanted you on my show. So it's so great to hear that it wasn't 100% the first time out. How do you help your clients move through the fear?
Well, one way that actually is really helpful is working with people in groups, because when you're in a group, especially with people that have some commonality, then you realize you're not alone. One of the things I hear from my audience is it's really reassuring to hear that your guests are going through some of the same struggles I'm going through, that I'm not alone. Being an entrepreneur is a very lonely job, whether you're a solopreneur or you're the CEO of a company with thousands of people. There are things you're not going to you speak to your employees about. You're not going to speak to your partners about, if you have partners. You're not going to speak to your significant other in your personal life, because either you're afraid to, or frankly, he or she probably doesn't want to hear it. You're not going to speak to your investors about it. If you have a board, you're not going to speak to your board about it. So who do you talk to about it? Well, you'll talk to another business owner if it's a safe space in a trusting environment. And that's huge. So one of the ways I work with clients to help them overcome fear is to try to do things in groups. Another way is I will point out other people that have gone through similar experiences, so they realize they're not the first one going through this. They're not alone. There are other people. I will also talk to them about the successes they've had, because often when we're feeling a lot of fear and frustration, we're focused way too much on the fear. We don't realize that we've had a lot of success. There are things that we've done well that have worked out. And we can, and if there's something that's a problem, we have the capacity to recover. Humans are extremely resilient and can bounce back from all kinds of catastrophes. So pointing out to people, like, one of the things you can do with a client is you can say, okay, when have you faced something similar before? May not have been the exact same experience, but what has had some similarity? How did you overcome it? How did you get out of it? Because clearly that happened before. You've had other successes since. What are you doing? What did you do then that you can apply now?
It's a great question. I'm a big fan of fear. It lets us know what's important. Things that aren't important don't bring up fear. So it's kind of like a flag in the sand saying treasure below.
Yes, yes.
So we've talked about fear, and we've talked about super skills, but let's dive into the meat. How do you turn your super skill into recurring revenue?
Many entrepreneurs, particularly solopreneurs, think about their offering as either something where their value is based on their input. So think about an hourly fee or a daily rate. That is self-limiting because there are only so many hours in the day. Another way many solopreneurs will think about what they can offer, because they're hearing about a problem that a prospect has, and they can think about solving that one problem. And I would encourage you, when you're hearing about a problem from a prospect, don't think about the one problem. Think about how that problem may have elements that will manifest itself over and over and again every single month. And what do they need every single month that is going to help them solve that problem every single month?
Years ago, I heard something that sort of blew my mind, which is we all know that to oversell somebody, to sell them more than they need, is wrong. Like, if you, at least in my book of morality, it's wrong. But what really kind of flipped a switch for me is that to undersell what somebody needs is just as wrong. So if it's a problem that is going to repeat your kind of saying that the entrepreneur has a duty to address further down the road with some kind of repeated support?
Correct. So, as an example, if you're a web developer, don't think about the prospect may have come to you to build a website, right? But don't just think about building the website. Why does the client need a website? Right? The client needs a website because the client wants to convert leads into customers. So how can you help that client convert leads into customers with a digital presence all the time?
Especially when everything falls apart every time WordPress has an update or a plugin or a browser change or something like that. That's like a lifetime commitment.
Correct. And you may end up making less money initially because what you may end up doing is the project may have a bigger fee attached to it than ongoing revenue. Yet the lifetime value of the client, if the client is paying you every single month, is going to far exceed whatever you can charge on one project. Almost always.
That's a great example. So for people who are listening right now, what is like the mind shift that you would recommend for a solopreneur to start seeing the possibilities of recurring revenue?
I would say take whatever it is you're currently getting paid for, ask yourself the question, for anything where I'm getting paid one time, what part of the problem that I'm solving does my client have every single month? And how can I solve that every single month?
That's a great
Just break
question.
it down.
Yeah. And how do people get in touch with you? Because it's, again, you're talking about, skill set, just that thing you do that's so easy. But because it's easy, odds are you're blind to it. It doesn't even occur to you, or you don't see it the way outside people. I think that, choosing that thing is the hardest thing in the world, and not for sissies. So if somebody wants more support from you, what is the best way for them to find you?
They can go to smashingtheplateau.com, our website. They can email me, david@smashingtheplateau.com. We do have a scheduling link. They could schedule time with me at smashingtheplateau.com. They can do something very old-fashioned, which is pick up the phone, for those who still know how to use one, and call 212-731-0770. Our phone gets answered 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, Eastern time. And whoever answers will make an appointment for you to speak with me.
So funny what you said about the phone. Like, I spent 5 minutes looking for my phone, and that wasn't a concept when we were growing up. Nobody lost the phone that was on the kitchen wall back then.
Right, and there was one phone number for each family, period.
Yeah. Oh, those were the days.
Yeah, we even had a party line. So it wasn't just one phone number for the family. It was one phone number that we shared with other people.
Finally, what do you mean by smashing the plateau? That's your website, that's your podcast, that's your brand. What do you mean by smashing the plateau? What plateau?
So the way I envision it, success is not a linear progression. There are ups and downs, and there are peaks and valleys, and there are plateaus. So we particularly when you're working towards something, very often, like let's say you want to get to the $10,000 a month number in revenue. You might get there and find that you're not getting anywhere past. You get to 10,000 and you kind of get stuck there. So that's a plateau. And how do you smash through that? I've had guests who've been on my show, been really successful in business. They build a business that's very successful, and then they sell it at age 42, and it's like, and then what? And they don't feel that great. It's kind of funny. They have enough money to live on for the rest of their lives, yet they don't have the same kind of purpose, and they're not driven the way they were when they were building their business. And that's another kind of plateau. It's not a financial plateau, but it's really an emotional plateau. And how do you figure out your purpose at age 42 if you have made enough money to live on, even if you live till 100? We should all have those problems, by the way.
It's a high-quality problem, and it is a problem.
It is a problem, though.
Yeah. So thank you so much. This was very interesting.
Morgana, thank you so much for having me on the show.
Oh, my pleasure. That concludes our conversation for today. You can get all the links that we talked about and lots of resources at morganaradio.com. And as always, if you like what you heard, I would like to invite you to subscribe to the Morgana Radio podcast. Your instructions on how to do this are also at morganaradio.com. That's it for now. I will see you next week with another fascinating guest expert on Morgana Radio.